Today we continue with our class Kosher Kitchen, and we start with Sefer, Shmiras, Haloshon. Okay. Today's topic is tools without flaw. Through Shmiras Haloshon, a Jew perfects his primary tool of his service of HaShem, his power of speech. So our tool, our weapon, our everything is power of speech, right? Prayer and learning of Torah. By not using this, but not using his tongue for forbidden talk, he ensured that the words of the Torah study and prayer will ascend before HaShem and achieve the desired results. That's right. If you want, if you want to do anything, like if you're a craftsman or something, like if you have a saw and it has dual this, what is it, the blade, it's not going to help you very much. Right? In all of these traits, you have to have good tools. The sages referred a speech of a Jew as a craft. When a king wants an item made for his personal use, he will choose only the finest craftsman to accomplish this task. He will seek someone who can create products of rare beauty, fit to be placed upon the royal table. Yet even the world's greatest craftsman will not be able to satisfy the king if he lacks necessary tools. So it doesn't matter how genius you are if you don't have any good tools. So it's not going to help you if you have, computers from 1995 and you try to work on today's graphics. So it's not going to help you much, right? If he is forced to use the tools that are damaged or of poor quality, the finished product will quite likely be rejected by a commoner and surely by the king. Right? Why? Because of the tools. If, however, the master craftsman is provided with very best tools, then the final product will be a thing of beauty and bring king much satisfaction. So good tools. Okay, so what is the parable? There is no greater satisfaction of king of the kings, as it were, than when his craftsmen, the children of Israel, go about their divine service with tools in double quote, that are free of spiritual imperfection. And it is only through the Shmiras Haloshon that this can be achieved. Right? With the good tools. All right. Very good. Let's stop here. And we continue. So last time we have a very, very technical class, and I think it would be beneficial as we try to do overview. I think so, unless somebody remember everything we said by heart. So the topic that we did last time, we did not finish, but we started, and we did a few sections, two sections of this topic. Was transmitting the taste through heat, right? And we said not the last time, but the time before that how the taste is being transmitted through heat and some medium. So what we said, the medium is liquid or like fatty thing, right? And we started with definition what is hot. So the hot, we said, its biblical definition is Yatzel Adasbo. Yatzel Adasbo, when your hands recoil. And we gave definition. So it's minimum, it's 43, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, it's 43 Celsius. It's very, very, very strict, right? And more lenient is more acceptable. Is actually 160 degrees Fahrenheit and 71 degrees Celsius. So that's where we say when the cooking process for sure is going, right? So meaning that it could be like the one taste from one substance can go into the taste of another. And we actually we also describe the vessels, right? It also depends in what vessel you have this all of these foods. And the first vessel that we discussed was Kli Rishon. Kli Rishon, it's a primary vessel that we said that it was on a source of heat, and it was heated in that vessel, or even if it's removed from the source of heat, but it's still very hot and it has a potential to cook, right? So if something comes into this vessel, so for sure that it's going to be infusion of the taste, for sure. Okay. And then when we discuss the second vessel is a kli, secondary vessel. So if you take you have a hot soup, and let's say without ladle, right? You pour this hot soup into something else. So and the second vessel is going to be kli. And many poskim, not all of them, but many poskim said that once you transfer content of the primary vessel kli rishon into kli sheni, secondary vessel, so the potential of cooking is like diminished significantly. And most likely is not going to cook, right, in a secondary vessel. But we said yes, but there are other poskim disagree, and they say no. Actually, if they say if the content of the secondary vessel is going to be like above or yatzel adasbo, for sure is going to cook. So of course, since it is, we might transgress biblical prohibition, so we try to go by the stricter opinion, and we say, okay, secondary vessel, if it's very hot, so it's going to cook. So to explain what is the difference between two opinions. So if you have this bowl of soup, right? So you took no ladle, right? So if you took your pot, right, from the stove, and you pour soup into your bowl, so now you have soup, and now you give somebody, like we have somebody is visiting, your relatives who do not know kosher, right? So somebody took a dairy spoon into this meat soup, right? So depends on, according to the first opinion, there is no transmission of taste, period. So what do you have to do? You have to wash this this spoon in a sink. I would say do it in a bathroom, so somewhere else, but not in the kitchen, because the taste is going to go in the kitchen. Okay, so do it somewhere else, right? Wash it with the soap, and you're good. That's it. No kashering necessary, no mikvah necessary. You're good. But according to second opinion, yeah, for sure, you have to kasher the spoon, because why? Because it was very hot soup above yad saladasbo. So according to second opinion, that's the problem. Okay, so they this rabbi is he's as he said in introduction, many issues he's not going to resolve, but he would say a rav must be consulted. So okay, we're going to consult the rav, and that's exactly how he's going to paskin. I mean, it depends on the rav, but I would say if it's above yad saladasbo, and since it could be biblical, so why are you playing this fire? So let's say we say that it was transmission of the taste. That's it. Okay. So you have to kasher the spoon. But if you know for sure, like for example, you pour for a baby, for sure, like you're never going to pour for a baby hot soup, right? So it was very warm, but not yad saladasbo, right? So in this case, if you remember that it was the soup was not hot, or let's say it was off the stove for, I don't know, 15 minutes, and it was not very hot to begin with, so you can go by lenient opinion and say that only wash the spoon. Continue. Then we discussed several new things, right? That maybe some of you heard for the first time. So one of them was irui, right? Irui. So what is irui? Irui is actually like when you pour in something from a primary vessel into secondary vessel, right? So if you have this teapot, right, and you pour in this very hot liquid, right, into your cup. So this liquid, so even though this cup is a secondary vessel, for sure, we're not arguing, right? Maybe it's going to be transmission of the taste, maybe yes, maybe not. We're not care about it right now, because it's a different scenario. So this stream that comes from original vessel, from a kli rishon that was on a source of heat, was electric heat, like gas stove, that does not make any difference. So it was very hot. If the liquid in this teapot was kettle was above Yatzel Bo. That's it. So it was. It's a different issue, like a different scenario that the taste for sure mixed. Okay. So maybe it's not a good example with the water, but let's say it was soup, and you have milk or cheese or something inside of your bowl, or opposite, it was you pour milk, like hot milk onto cold meat. Okay. What else did we say? Okay. Then we discussed a ladle, right? So ladle is what you transfer the soup or whatever you transfer into your bowl. So they say what is a ladle? Is a Haloshon or klisheni? Is it primary vessel or secondary? So why? Because it's very hot. Right, so we say if it's so hot that above Yatzel Bo, so they say Kansal Raf. So we say let's go by stricter opinion. So actually we say if it's plastic or metal, how long it was submerged in a pot. So if it's metal, it was submerged like many times in a pot. So it's most likely it's like almost clearly shown. Difference of the opinion. Okay. So we try to follow the stricter opinion. Then we say dvar gush, right? So what is a dvar gush? So dvar gush, we said that it is a potential of the solid items, like solid food articles, like meat, right? Like steak, right? So to cook whatever is going to come into contact with that. Why? Because it's an internal heat, and it's going to stay hot very long, even if you transfer to different vessels. Even a tertiary or fourth vessel does not make any difference. So an example that we were discussing, if somebody take a dairy knife, right, and try to carry this piece of meat in a tertiary vessel. So they took from frying pan with a fork, let's say, and put it in one plate, then another plate. That doesn't matter. The meat is still hot inside. This plate is not going to cool it off so fast. Okay. So we said, in this case, since inside of the meat is very hot, even on the surface it's not so hot, but inside it's very hot, so you have to kosher this knife. And the last thing that we discussed is dvar harif. So what is dvar harif? It's a sharp food. Okay, sharp food, and like all of the onions, garlic, and other foods. Okay, actually, I think we're going to discuss it further. So they say consult Rab, but we're going to discuss it. Okay, that's what we said last time. And let me just quickly read the summary that we did last time. Summary. Raf will need to know the following: the degree of heat involved, right, and whether the hot food was in an original heating utensil, right? So if was it above Yatzel Bo, was below Yatzel Bo, and in what utensil it was, primary, secondary, or maybe you transfer 7 times already. Okay, meat or dairy utensil are involved. He will need to know whether they are used for hot meat, were used for hot meat or dairy in the previous 24 hours. So we discuss in different scenarios. First scenario is transmission of the taste from dairy into fleshik or opposite. It does not matter, right? And second scenario, what we just said, it was empty vessel, like in case of our spoon, let's say, right? So for example, if this milcha spoon, dairy spoon that you put in a soup, let's say it was in secondary vessel, it was above Yatzel Bo, let's say, right? But this spoon last time you used 2 days ago, more than 24 hours. So it's not ben yama. We're going to learn about ben yama like in the first 24 hours. So if it was clean for a period of 24 hours, so you wash it well, like with a soap or something. So like in this case, we can rely on a lenient opinion. So after 24 hours, the taste is no longer valid, like it's like a garbage, whatever. So you can rely on lenient opinion. Don't kosher. Will not be obligated to kosher this point. Okay. So last one. If dishes were washed together, this okay. I missed this. Okay. So apologies. When I did the review, I forgot this one. So we said that the following. In the kitchen, you have hot faucet, right? Hot faucet. So, and the water actually they're very hot. It could be very hot. So this hot water, right? It's going to be Klirishon. Like it's when you pour it in from Klirishon, right? So if you have two plates, one is milk and one is dairy. Well, no, it's the same. One is was meat and one is dairy, and then you have this hot faucet and it splash the contents from one to another. So that's the problem because it's this water is very hot and it's considered like you pour it from Klirishon. So it's like Klirishon meaning primary vessel. I forgot that. Okay. So it's a very good idea to maybe. I think I missed. I think that's the only thing that we forgot. Okay, sorry. Okay, so it says, if dishes were washed together, he will inquire about the degree of the heat of the water. So if it was very hot or not very hot. So usually if a person washes without, I'm just adding, right? If a person washes dishes with gloves, so that's what I do, like with this, what is it, this yellow dishwashing gloves, right? So you don't feel the heat. So sometimes I like because the hotter it's better, like it's easier to wash. So sometimes I would wash with very hot water, very hot water. So, but I guess if you wash without these gloves, so you're very sensitive. You're not going to use such a hot water. So that's what Rav must know, like how exactly you did it. So Rabbi is going to ask you this question. So what? Just ask, like, just tell me what to do. But that's actually affect the answer. Okay, so any questions on what we said last time before we continue? Okay, no problem. So let's continue. So that's I think I did review on everything. I don't think we missed, but at least all of the major points we covered. Okay, so continue. So section C, contact between solid foods. Okay, number one, foodstuff placed atop each other. Okay, if two solid foods are placed atop each other, one kosher and one non-kosher, or one meat and one dairy, taste may be transmitted from one into the other, regardless on which one is on top. Okay, right. So the taste could go up also. Very interesting. This and the degree of any taste transmittal would depend upon several factors. Okay, so A, whether both foods are hot or only one is hot. B, if only one is hot, it would depend upon whether the top or bottom food is hot one. Okay. And C, finally, one must consider whether either of the foods is fatty. So if it's lean, like so it's different story. But let's see. Thus, if hot meat or hot cheese are placed atop each other, they absorb the taste from each other, and both may be prohibited. In any cases, Rav must be consulted. So we try. Okay. So you cannot call the Rabbi like every time, and some of them answer like I answer person. I mean, who knows me, and I still been a few months, even though I reminded. So I need the answer. So okay. So don't expect that you're going to send email and he's going to reply you in 3 seconds. Okay. Okay. So we should be able to, like, in case of, like, if it's a biblical, if it might involve biblical prohibition, just go strictly and that's it. If you want to ask and wait and ask, yeah, you can wait. If you have somebody available on demand, yeah, that's what you should do. You ask. But otherwise, we're going to try to see what is the final halacha is. Okay. So let's read this one more time and we're going to explain. So, okay, so it's a totally different scenario from what we learned before. If two solid foods are placed one on top of the other, right? So we care about so here we're going to talk about the transmittal of the taste from one food into another, right? And it could be 2 scenarios: one kosher and one non-kosher. Okay, so of course we care about this non-kosher taste going into the kosher, right? If one meat or one meat and one dairy, okay, that's basically that's the only scenarios that we care about. Taste may be transmitted from one to the other regardless which one is on top. So once on one hand we said regardless, but on another hand we say depends which is hot. Okay, so don't jump to any conclusions. This is the degree of any taste transmittal that would depend upon several factors. So is it going to go up, down? Is it going to transmit one into the other? Okay, A, whether both foods are hot or only one is hot. So if there is both of them are cold, there is almost no issue. So I mean, he did not say it, but if it's solid foods, you can just wash it. So if it's possible to wash it, you just wash it. Right, if you can like cut top layers, so cut top layer for sure. Like most likely there was no transmittal of the taste. But now this A says both of them are hot, only one of these is hot. So that's a more common scenarios. I mean, at least problematic one. Next one is B. If only one is hot, only one, it would depend whether the top or bottom one is hot. So it's not irrelevant which one is top or on the bottom, which one is hot, like on the top and which one on the bottom. No, okay. So we need to know the one that is hot on top or on the bottom. Okay. And C, finally, one must consider whether either the foods is fatty. So meaning what to do. So before that, before this. This part we were talking about the liquids, so it was soup and all the milk and other things. So now here we're talking about solids, right? There is no liquid involved, but fat in some cases could be like could transmit the taste. Okay. So before we continue, so there are 2 comments. Okay, there are 2 commentaries. So let's say first commentary, which one is on top, right? Hot on top or on the bottom? Commentary. The Talmud Pesachim 76a cites difference of the opinion whether ta'a gavar, the bottom overpowers the top, or li'ar gavar, the top overpowers the bottom. Rishonim ruled that one should follow the opinion of Ta'av Gavar. Ta'av Gavar meaning the bottom overpowers the top. So 2 opinions. It's very interesting, this insight, right? So they say like which one is strong? The taste is going to go up or the taste is going to go down. So of course this. One more second. So we're going by more strict opinion. So like it's like logically you would assume from top going to bottom, but taste from bottom going to top, it would be like more stricter opinion. So that's what the way I understand. And the next commentary, so we say whether one of the food was fatty. So commentary. Two salads cannot thoroughly transmit taste to each other without liquid or fatty medium. So that's what we said. So in other words, if it's only they dry, there is almost no problem. Okay, you have to wash it, but was most likely no transmitter of taste. Thus, only kidei nitilas, a thickness of approximately 1 inch, needs to be removed from the surface of the kosher meat that touch non-kosher food and then discarded. Okay. However, if either one of the foods is fatty, non-kosher taste is transmitted throughout the kosher food. As we notice, section 1, see above, that is customary most foods are treated as fatty food. Okay, so let's try to read it one more time, just to make sure that we understand. So it says, two salads cannot thoroughly transmit taste to each other without liquid or fatty medium. We said that, okay. Thus, only kidei nitilas, the thickness of approximately 1 inch, it's a lot, what's inches, needs to be removed from the surface of the kosher meat. 1 inch, it's like this, like how thick is the meat, right? That's a good question. Kosher meat that touch non-kosher food and then discharge. Meaning you cut this 1 inch, which is 1 inch, and we're going to see, and then discharge. Okay. However, if either one of the foods is fatty, non-kosher taste is transmitted throughout the kosher food. Meaning, as we said, if even is going to go from the bottom. Notice the section 1c above that customary most food are treated as fatty foods. Okay, so meaning what? That we're trying to go like a stricter opinion. Okay, continue. Thus, if a hot meat and a hot cheese are placed atop each other, they absorb the taste from each other, and both may be prohibited. Okay. In any cases, a Rav must be consulted. Continue. Number 2. Meat placed on a daily plate. So now, like first scenario was the 2 foods. Now we're going to food and just utensil. Okay. If cold food is placed onto the empty hot pot, if cold food is placed onto the empty hot pot, or hot food placed into the cold plate. For example, cold meat is placed into the hot dairy pot, or hot meat is placed onto cold dairy plate. So I think that's more like practical. Okay, so hot meat is put on into a cold dairy plate. Okay, the status of the food and the plate depends upon whether utensil is ben yamo. So that's ben yamo that we discussed before, meaning this 24 hours. Okay. I mean, used more than 24 hours. Okay. Whether the utensil or the food or both are hot, whether liquid is present, and whether the food is fatty. These halachas are complex and half must be consulted. Okay, so let's go back. Try to go one more time, and we're going to explain. So now we're talking about food meets the utensil, and one of them is hot. So if two of them is hot, it's a different story. Now we're talking about only one of them is hot. If cold food is placed into the empty hot pot, so maybe they pour out the content of the soup and now they put cheese. Or, I don't know, the cold milk fell into this pot. Or hot food placed into cold plates. So they have a chicken or the steak and now they put in a cold plate because it was the only clean plate in the house, let's say. For example, cold meat is placed into the hot dairy pot, or hot meat placed into cold dairy plate. Okay, so let's see what's going on. The status of the food and the plate depends on whether utensil is ben yama. So basically, you have to remember when exactly last time you used this plate. Okay, so if it's more than 24 hours, we say it's many times it's there is no problem. Okay. Whether the utensil or the food are both achat. So that's another thing, right? Both of them achat. So two things. Whether utensil was used for more than more than 24 hours, like was not used for more than 24 hours, and whether the utensil and the food achat. Okay. So now we just build in the case. There are no answers, but we're going to see whether liquid is present. So liquid is present. We said before the liquid is going to transfer the taste for sure, and whether the food is fatty. Okay, so liquid or fat. This halachas are complex, and Rav must be consulted. Okay. So let's. He does not provide an answers. Okay, actually in the next section it's going to be like practical applications, and we're going to we're going to add. Okay, because we have a practical class. We need to give a bottom line. Okay, so continue. Number 3, food stuff placed side by side. If the foods touch when placed side by side, their status depends, among the other consideration, upon whether both foods were hot or whether the foods were lean or fatty. This halachas is also complex, and rabbinic guidance must be sought. Okay, no problem. Continues. So this scenario when they saying they put two foods side by side. I mean, it's not. I think it's not a big difference between when you put one on top of the other. I mean, the area of contact is different. So of course it's much more lenient. You just cut, whatever, if necessary, from one side from another side, and you might be good. Okay. So in section D, continue. Contact between the cold foods. Okay, that's as we said. I guess it's the easier thing. Okay. If no heat is present, no transmittal of the taste occurs. The question now is how to kosher the food. The kosher food must be cleaned to remove any non-kosher residue. Poskim differentiate between dry, damp, and fatty foods. Okay, so we're going to see. So it says extremely salty foods are covered by the different guidelines that are enumerated in another place. Okay, no problem. So as we know, the salt actually cooks it cooks. So meaning what? If you salt the fish, right, it's going to cook the fish, and you would be able to eat it I don't know, in a matter, depends on the fish, in even few hours, right? Or you salt the pickled vegetables, so the same thing. Okay. So now we're going to go and see if it's both foods were cold. Okay. So number 1, dry, cold foods. If both foods are completely dry, the kosher food does not require washing. Kosher food, since no non-kosher residue adheres to it. Okay. So but they're completely dry. So if you suspect some fat, right? So some residue, you can always wash it, and there is no problem. Or you don't want to wash it, just cut a little piece, and then you're good. I mean, when they actually touched. So this is, those are the most easy cases. Okay. So number 2, damp, cold foods. So now damp meaning, I don't know, maybe it's from evaporation, from the refrigerator or something. condensation, evaporation, but condensation. Okay, so let's see. If either of this, and certainly if both foods, and even slightly damp, the kosher food must be rinsed. Okay. Right, but you see, because it was cold, even water, but it was cold, so we're going to a little stricter than in first case. If both foods, if the food was cooked without having been rinsed, the Rav must be consulted. Okay. So Rav must be consulted. Okay, so they say they touched each other, two foods, one kosher, one not kosher, or one dairy and one is not dairy, meat, right? And somehow they did not rinse this the kosher food. Then Rav must be consulted. I say it depends. Like in this case, of course, we can go by leniency. Always can go by leniency. It depends how much. Like if it was 1 to 60, we can apply 1 to 60. Most likely it was more than 1 to 1,000. So most likely it's not a problem. So we can rule leniently in this case. Continue. Fatty cold foods. So I have this, I don't know, like fatty cheeses, like feta cheese or something. Right? It's very fatty. If either of the foods is fatty, or meat, right? Or cold meat is fatty. The kosher food must be scrubbed well to remove any non-kosher residue. So because from fat, of course, it was transmittal. So as I said, I mean, it's easy, in my opinion, just easy to cut like small sliver of the food and that's it. Just throw out and don't do all the scrubbing, right? Does the meat, if meat touches cheese, or a meat or a cheese touches parve food, the meat or the cheese or if parve food must be scrubbed well. So the parve food, so what's the problem with parve foods? Parve is neither milk or meat, right? So they want this food to be eaten with either one, with either meat or milk. That's the explanation. Otherwise, there is no problem. So it was parve, right? You have pasta. It was parve. Now this few pieces touch meat, so it became meat. So what is the problem? It's still kosher. Okay. Alternatively, a thin sliver, okay, that's what we said, of the attached surface must be cut away. So I would say it's like the fastest and easiest way. Just cut a thin sliver. That's it. You're good. So it's about cold food. Continue. Number 4, cold milk and meat. If cold meat falls into the cold meat. No, I'm sorry. If cold meat falls into cold milk, or cold milk spilled over the cold meat, the meat may absorb some milk. Right? This depends. So milk is usually fatty. Right? This depends upon whether the meat is raw or cooked. Very interesting. Smooth or with crevices. That's very important. Or whether the meat is bland or spiced. Rav must be consulted. So meaning, let's go from the beginning now, and we're going to explain. If cold, so we care about meat in this case, right? Right. So meat falls into cold milk, right? Or cold milk spilled over the meat, right? So for sure, some taste was absorbed, right? I mean, it depends how long this piece of meat also was there. If you remove it immediately and you washed it away, so maybe there is no transmittal of the taste. But if it stayed there for some time and then you realize you're missing one chicken leg, yeah, that's of course the issue. Okay, this depends upon whether the meat is raw or cooked. So meaning what that cooked food is going to be like absorbed better, I think. That's my opinion. I'm not sure. I think, right? And plus it has crevices, meaning that like would absorb easily. And whether it's meat bland or spiced. So spiced actually absorb things better. Okay. So Rav must be consulted. So let's do the summary, and then we'll see if you have any questions. So summary is as follows. When meat touches dairy food, or meat touches dairy food, or meat or dairy touch food, touch pareh foods, or kosher food touch non-kosher food. Okay, so we don't have any, we don't want any transmittal of the taste from dairy into meat, from meat into dairy, and from non-kosher food to either one. Okay. So okay, let's go. If both foods are cold and completely dry, they do not require washing. Cold, completely dry, not require washing. So would we be like cold, completely dry? Milk product? Maybe not fatty cheese. I'm not sure. Okay, so something like that. So not required washing. Okay, if you want to wash, you can wash. Nobody's stopping you. If either is even slightly damp, and the meat and the dairy, or a paref, the kosher food must be rinsed. Okay, so if it's both of them cold, kosher, non-kosher, dairy or meat, or even paref. So in this case, they want this paref food to stay paref. Period. Okay, for whatever reason, right? So okay, so you have to wash them if water was involved. Not water, but damp. Damp is not water. Water is different story. Okay, number 3. If either of the foods is fatty, so fat we said is going to transmit the taste, even a little. The meat and the dairy must be scrubbed well to remove the residue of either type, right? So okay, because of the fat. And we said either one of them, it does not make a difference. Therefore, if meat touches cheese, or either touches pareh food, the meat and the cheese, or the pareh food must be scrubbed well, or thin sliver of their surface should be cut away. So, well, because of the fat. So, as we said before, fat of one of the transmittal of the taste. So, do scrubbing, or just cut away a little piece. That's it. It's faster and cheaper, I think. So continue. Next one. In any of the following cases, Rav must be consulted. Okay, but technically, if you think about it, we have a clear idea what like in all of the situation. Of course, you can consult Rav, but I mean, the guidelines is pretty clear, I think. So next one, if cold meat falls into the cold milk, and the cold milk or the cold milk spills over the meat, so one way or another, in this case, there is a question of whether or not the milk is absorbed into the meat. So okay, because of course you took out the meat out of the milk, there is no problem with the milk. So what I mean, he did not say it, but it's obvious because it was there is no substance that actually is left in the milk, right? So and most likely, of course, there are different scenarios, but most likely, even if something is left there, it's going to be 1 to 60, and most likely you're not going to taste this meat. Taste of the meat is not that strong. So taste of the spices is. So if you have non-kosher spices for whatever reason, so yeah, even a little bit of the spices, like a 1/4 of the, or 1/8 of the teaspoon, and you're going to taste it. Yeah, that would be the problem. But here, you're not going to taste meat in this milk. So the problem only, what I'm trying to say, the problem only here is with the meat, that it absorbs some milk. So we try to wash it, but let's continue. Next scenario: if hot meat and hot cheese are placed on top of the other or side by side. Okay, so okay. If cold meat, so we say that of course there is a problem. If it's fat, of course one went into another, but if not, maybe you can rinse them. Continue. If cold meat is placed into a hot dairy pot, or hot meat placed into cold dairy plate. Okay, so now we're going to go into utensils. So is it a transmittal of the taste? Foods touched by fatty hands. Okay, that's another one. So the little child just ate pizza, and then he went to explore the kitchen and touch everything else, wherever he wants to eat with his fatty hands. That's another issue. Right, that's a big issue. Even though there is just so we understand, there is no prohibition for children to eat meat if they want to, like especially little kids. After meat, after the cheese, okay, even they do. I mean, of course, we try them to make them wash their hands, but even after meat, they want milk. There is if they're little children, so. Of course, we should not give, but if they insist, there is no problem, just so we know. Okay, continue. If their hands were completely wet, right, to keep the food parv, it should be rinsed. If their hands were completely wet, to keep the food parv, we should rinse it. Okay, no problem, right? So. Meaning a child was eating, let's say, this pizza, and now that they touch something else, so we can wash the food, whatever is it, I don't know, whatever they touched. Okay. If their hands were fatty, so we're talking about the children, I guess, the part of food must be scrubbed well, and a thin or a thin sliver of the attached surface cut away. So again, we're talking about children. I mean, it could happen to adults also. We have fatty hands, that like soiled with a cheese or something, and they start touching things. That's a big issue. If foods were already cooked, or if the children touch the absorbent food, a rabbi must be consulted. Next question. One should always see that the children wash their hands well before assisting in preparing foods, right? Because children, that's what they do. They eat whatever they allowed or not allowed. They forget to ask you sometimes, right? So you have to know. Like you have to make sure that they always wash their hands. Okay, so let me see 1 second how much time is. Okay, we have time. Important caveat. All of the above refer to an instance when one actually sees dampness or fat on a child's hands. So like suddenly he switched to children. Okay, so I mean, if you don't suspect the little ones that they're trying to do something bad, right? So if you see the fat, yeah, it could be like something to worry about. But if not, so. Right. Don't worry, or you just think that their hands are wet. Okay. So one more time, all of the above refers to instance where one actually sees the dampness or fat on a child's hands, or has a good reason to assume that the child's hands are soiled. One is not required to, nor should one regularly suspect that the children's hands are soiled. That's like you're going to drive yourself crazy and the children. This can be harmful to the chinuch and one's own peace of mind. Like these people, they always check, ask you 7 times the same question, right? The Torah does not require that we worry about imaginary and projected problematic scenarios. So right. So okay, the problematic scenario. It is the Torah way, that a ways of peacefulness, pleasantness. I'm sorry, pleasantness. So we're trying to be pleasant. So if you have something to suspect, okay, but if not, don't create in your mind all the situation, because you're never going to enjoy any food or any part of your life. One who is experienced such anxieties should consult Rav to determine whether these worries are halachically reasonable. They're usually not. Okay, so I had this question from one person, like many times. So he always like most of the questions were he would use like plastic forks and knives, and sometimes he just ate. He eats it like he would eat dairy meals. So he would take from the bag this plastic knife, maybe with his hands with fire. Like he was driving himself crazy, unfortunately. So I told him, don't worry, just buy two packs of forks. One is let's say white one from a dairy, black one is for, or a clear one, whatever you want for a meat. That's it. Don't drive yourself crazy. And you know, if it's dairy, you take from white, you from milk, you take black, and don't drive yourself crazy. Right? That's the thing. Okay. Any questions on what we said so far before we continue? Because we're about to start the next section. Any question? Okay. We'll have another chance, Beezrat Hashem, at the end, or like when we maybe somewhere in the middle of this section. So section 3 and topic: other types of taste transmittal. Okay, other types of taste. So far we're talking about taste transmittal in what? Between dairy and meat, right? Between dairy and meat and non-kosher. Between foods and utensils, and between utensils and foods, right? So all of these scenarios. Okay, so now we're going to different topic, and it says kavush kemevushal. Okay, transmittal of the taste through soaking. That's very interesting. Okay, soaking. So let's start. Whenever food is soaked in a liquid, it may affect the taste. It may affect the same transmittal taste. That occurs when the two are soaked together. Okay, so I apologize. One more time. Whenever food is soaked in a liquid, it may affect the same transmittal. It may affect the same transmittal of taste that occurs when the two are cooked together. So in some sense, soaking, it's like cooking, and it is true if you think about beans, right? So if you start cooking beans, lentils or stuff like that right away, okay, good luck. I mean, it's going to take you some time. But if you soak them into like cold water overnight, or some people soak like for 24 hours, whatever you do, so to cook them would be very fast. So in some sense, soaking is like cooking. Continue. So that's okay. That's the explanation of that. This is known in Talmudic terminology as kavush kemevushal. Soaking is equivalent of cooking. Okay. Continue. Thus, if non-kosher food is soaked in a kosher liquid, or a kosher food is soaked in a non-kosher liquid, the kosher liquid or food absorb non-kosher taste. A kosher food that's soaked in a liquid in which non-kosher food was previously soaked or presently soaking is likewise affected by non-kosher taste. Okay, so we're going to read it again. So they say, see in another place, regarding whether milk soaked in a vessel rendered as dairy vessel. So that's another case. right? The different scenario. It was a milk in, let's say, even it was part of pot. Let's say even part of pot. If like in some sense, this utensil is soaked in with this milk. Okay, so not completely absorbed, but inside. So if meat, if the taste of the milk was transmitted. So let's do this one more time, and we're going to explain. Thus, if non-kosher food is soaked in a kosher liquid, so kosher was the liquid. So the question is whether we can use the same liquid or not. So what could be this liquid? And okay, I don't know. So probably not water or some other liquid. Usually people soak in water, but sometimes not. Sometimes they soak in some. Some people soak. What is it? Like meat in a salad dressing or something like that's marinated. They do like they marinate the meat. Okay, it's also soaking. Okay. So, okay, that's non-kosher food is soaked in a kosher liquid. So the problem now with the liquid, right? We don't care about non-kosher food, of course. Or kosher food is soaked in a non-kosher liquid. Okay, so one of the two. Right. So now we care about two of the scenarios that the liquid became non-kosher because of non-kosher food that was soaked into it, or kosher food was become non-kosher because it was soaked in a non-kosher liquid. The kosher liquid or food absorb non-kosher taste. So for sure, especially, I'm not sure, are we going to say, maybe we're going to say how long and what was the ingredients of this liquid. So we just say liquid, but this liquid has a vinegar inside. The vinegar has power to cook for sure, right? Or if it was brine, it was salt for sure. It's going to cook, like it's going to penetrate. It depends. Okay, continue. A kosher food that soaked in a liquid, in which a non-kosher food was previously soaked. Right, so it was a kosher liquid, and then non-kosher food was soaked into that liquid. Non-kosher food was removed, and now they put kosher food into this liquid. So of course, the liquid absorbs the taste of non-kosher food, is going to transfer to the next liquid, to the kosher food. Okay, or just one second, just one second. One more time, the whole sentence. A kosher food that was soaked in a liquid, in which non-kosher food was previously soaked, or is previously soaking, or presently soaking, meaning now it's still there, right? It is likewise affect the non-kosher taste. Okay, so affect by non-kosher taste. So all of this soaking, all of this, I don't know how many, 4, 6 scenarios, whatever we mentioned, for sure it's going to go. The taste is non-kosher taste is going to go into our kosher food. Continue. Number 1. The required period of time. That's very important, right? If you just put it and take it out, so of course nothing has happened. That's what I said about meat. If you just fall into the milk and you right away took it out, I mean, even though he did not say, he said talk to the Rav, but we will try to be like, when it's more or less clear, like cut, we're going to present with answers, of course. Okay, so let's see. Number 1, required period of time. The transmittal of the taste through the socket is not immediate, right? So milk, this meat fall into milk, most likely, we're going to speak about, if he took it away right away, most likely no problem, but we're going to see. Only soaking of the 24 consecutive hours can affect the transmittal of the taste. So, but 24 hours for sure, the taste is going to go in, for sure. Whether the soaking of the period of less than 24 hours, the solid foods are merely washed and is permitted. Okay, we're going to see, but what is the ingredients? Like if it's salt or vinegar, so you would need less than 24 hours. but at least let's see what we learn. We said if it's 24 hours, even water, whatever, even without these vinegars and stuff, right, it's going to transmit the taste for sure. If it's less than 24 hours, let's say less than 24 hours, say you can wash and that's it. Okay. However, since there is a varying opinions, okay, exactly, varying opinions and exception to this rule, whether the kosher or non-kosher foods or meat or dairy foods are soaked together, even for a brief period of time, Rav must be consulted. Okay, so let's see. Even for a brief period of time, it means our piece of meat fell into the milk. Commentary. And they say, see in this place, for a more stringent opinions, if the non-kosher salad began to dissolve, the liquid may become prohibited, even if the soaking did not last 24 hours. Okay, non-kosher salad become to dissolve. Okay, maybe cheese start to dissolve. Possible. Okay. 23. So they say so the reason he said that, right, about meat and milk together, right, even for a brief period of time, is because it's a biblical prohibition. Okay, so continue. One should note that kavush kemevushal relates to absorption of the taste. Okay, so meaning this expression means soaking, right? However, besides the issue of kavush kemevushal, one must contend with the possibility of actual absorption of the liquid into the solid foods. Okay. Okay, so of course the liquid might or like most likely absorb. Right, certainly foods easily absorb any liquid in which they are soaked for even short period of time. Okay, meat soaked in a non-kosher liquid or for even a short time may absorb liquid and become prohibited. Rav must be consulted. So, okay. So let's continue. No conclusions yet. So certain foods, they absorb the liquids more easily, of course. Okay. So and even you soak them less than 24 hours. So I was surprised about this 24 hours, but we'll see in practical application what things you can just wash if it was soaked less than 24 hours. Maybe it was some non-kosher food, maybe like non-kosher liquid and some, I guess, some food like meat, right? So no milk involved, maybe like this. Okay, so continue. Number 2, type of liquid. Kavush kemevushal applies even to the bland liquids. Okay. However, the liquid must be in a liquid or near liquid state. Very interesting. 2 wet solids placed side by side, for example, 2 pieces of cold meat damp with gravy, do not absorb from each other, even they remain touching for more than 24 hours. So that's very interesting. Nevertheless, preferably one should remove the approximately 1 inch of each adjoining surface. Non-kosher liquids that mix with the kosher liquids immediately transmit the non-kosher taste. Okay, so 1 second. Let me see. Okay, so let's try to go over this again and try to understand. So second thing is the type of liquid. So this kavush kemevushal, meaning this soaking, applies even to bland liquids. Okay. However, the liquid must be in a liquid or near liquid state. Okay. So some liquids that they like in jello state, right? Even though it is liquid, right? So they're like a gravy, right? Two wet solids placed side by side, so they are just wet. For example, two pieces of cold meat. So one is kosher, one is not kosher. With gravy, let's say on one of them, two of them was gravy. Do not absorb from each other, even if they remain touching for touching that way for 24 hours. Of course, but of course we try to go by a stringent opinion, but nevertheless, preferably one should remove approximately 1 inch. I'm not sure like why it's so strict. Even there is no problem. Why 1 inch? It's a lot. It's a lot. So you will say 1 inch when like I would say 1 inch when it's for sure it's transmission of the taste. Okay, he's trying to go stricter opinion. No problem. Okay, so 1 inch from each side. So to be on the safe side. Okay, so they were not wet, just damp with this gravy. An unkosher liquid that is mixed with a kosher liquid immediately transmit its non-kosher taste. So as soon you mix non-kosher liquid with kosher liquids, that's it. The kosher liquid is gone. Okay. So continue. Number 3, salt, brine, and vinegar. So that's what I was talking about. For sure, it's going to cook, transmit, no problem. Kosher foods that are soaked together with the non-kosher foods in a salt, brine, or vinegar for a period of 18 minutes, or perhaps even 6 minutes. So yeah, that's 6 minutes. That's what I learned. May absorb non-kosher taste. So this vinegar, and brine, they cooked things very fast. Cooking in this case meaning absorbing the liquid. Even if they are soaked for less than 6 minutes, Rav must be consulted. So of course he's going to ask you all of these questions. Okay. So let's do one more time. Salt or brine, vinegar. One more time. Kosher foods that are soaked together with the non-kosher foods. Or I guess if this liquid in what he's soaking is also, if it's not kosher, if it was kosher liquid, let's say which is a brine or this vinegar, and it was initially kosher, and then you soak in the non-kosher food, and now you remove non-kosher food, and you soak now this kosher food. So in period of 6, I would say 6 minutes, 18 minutes is very lenient. Okay, very lenient, but he said even less than 6 minutes, ask you local Rav. Okay, so the first question, what was exactly on your mind? Like, why will you go into this? Like, how did it happen? So in my mind, if a person did this, like this scenario, for me it's crazy scenario. So most likely many other things are also wrong. It's not the one thing. Okay. So the Rav would ask actually if he cares about this person. So that's it's very interesting thing. So somebody said, can I go to this rabbi? I say you can go to any rabbi you want, right? But there are two rabbis give you. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a minimum or a maximum amount for that?
So,
like, we're talking about like the vinegar. Can it be just like like a half a cup, or does it have to be like a gallon?
No. There is no minimal amount. If it's liquid, it's going to get absorbed. Even two drops, 3 drops, 10 drops were absorbed. So that's enough. That's already a problem. Yeah. So what I was saying, so a Rav that cares about that person, he's going to ask all of these questions, and the Rav who does not care, he would give you the generic answer. Both answers are correct, but one like very busy, he gives a quick answer, and another one is who knows you, who knows your situation, and who would ask you the right question. So give you the better answer. Okay. So continue. But soaking usually it's most likely that it covered completely. That's when it's soaking means. Okay. But even if it's not covered completely, like a classic definition of soaking, right? You put something in a liquid and it absorb the liquid. Like you marinate meat, right? So you do all of this marinates and soaking there. Okay. Continue. Number 4, kavush kemuvushal regarding utensils. So it's very interesting. So as we said, if you pour milk into meat utensil, so in some sense, like you soak in this this pot in the milk. Very interesting. So just as food absorbed and transmit the taste through the kavush kemuvushal, so 2 vessels may absorb and transmit the taste through soaking. That's it. So you left there cold milk. You did not cook it. Cold milk, so it got absorbed into the walls of that pot, right? Poskim disagree as to whether this applies only to earthenware and other porous materials, for example, wood, leather, and stone, or to metals as well. So let me quickly read this commentary. So see in one place with regarding with this absorption is immediate. In another place regarding the glazed earthenware. So and we're going to go talk about this glazed earthenware like a china or something, right? In the topic of koshering for Pesach. So, for example, if a person wants to kosher his utensil. Glass utensil are not subject to the principle kavush kemuvushal, right? So glass is not going to absorb. Nevertheless, regarding Pesach, we treat glass as earthenware. So that's a difference between Sephardi custom and Ashkenazi custom. It does not say, but we know that, right? So in many cases, so Ashkenazi custom is more stricter. Right, so in this case, we, especially for Pesach, right, so we treat the glass as earthenware. Earthenware meaning what? That it's going to absorb. But in other cases, we treat glass as what? As a steel, actually as a metal. Right, and we actually require tevila, putting it into mikveh. Okay. Okay, continue. Thus, whenever consulting the Rav, so meaning we're talking about if you put pour this milk into this meat pot, right? Thus, whether or even into part doesn't matter, right? Thus, whenever you consulted the Rav regarding the question of liquid that were contained in a vessel, a Rav must be informed whether the vessel was earthenware, glazed porcelain, glass, wood, leather, stone, or metal. I never heard about leather utensils. I mean, in the Torah, but today I'm not sure. Maybe somebody uses leather. I'm not sure. Questions of kavush kemuvushal regarding vessels are possible in the following up 2 applications. Okay, here we go. Okay. Non-kosher liquid soaked in a kosher vessel. Non-kosher liquid soaked in a kosher vessel. Okay. So it's first scenario. If a non-kosher liquid is contained in a kosher vessel for 24-hour period, so in this case we said for sure it was transmittal of the taste. The vessel absorbs non-kosher taste for sure, right? Similarly, if milk is contained in a meat vessel for 24-hour period, the meat vessel absorbs the meat taste and you have to kosher it. Okay, second scenario. Kosher liquid soaked in a non-kosher vessel. Kosher liquids soaked in the pot is not kosher, and you pour there your kosher gravy. Okay, kosher milk. Okay, milk is bad, or whatever liquid. Gravy is a little could be different. Okay, so we say poskim disagree whether or not a kosher liquid that's soaked in a non-kosher vessel is affected by non-kosher taste absorbed in the vessel. Okay. So meaning what? Maybe that vessel also was benyama, maybe 24 hours, so it does not have this non-kosher taste, maybe. Okay, so let's see the summary. Whether the kosher or non-kosher foods or meat and dairy foods are soaked together, so again, the subject of soaking, even for a short period of time, one must be concerned that the problem of kavush kimuvashal, soaking, is equivalent to cooking. This issue are complex and must be presented to Rav. Okay, so, but at least some of, there are many more details, but at least we must understand. So if more than 24 hours, it's a problem. 24 hours plus is a problem. Utensil that was used less than 24 hours also can transmit the taste, as we said before. Right, what else we know for sure? And if it's a vinegar, right, or brine, so we said 18, like a more lenient opinion, 18 minutes. Other opinion, 6 minutes or even less, depends on like how concentrated is vinegar, of course, right, and how concentrated is brine. So cold also can transmit the taste. Kavush kemivashal applies even to foods soaked in a blend liquids, right, and even more so foods soaked in a salt and brine and vinegar. Okay, so 24 hours even with clear water, but needless to say with brine and vinegar. Okay. Continue. If milk contained in a meat vessel, or reverse, right, the milk in the vessel may absorb the taste of each other, as we explained, of course. So we're talking about cold. No, nothing is hot. So the problem is with the soaking. So of course, when you pour the milk into some container, some pot, it's not like you put it in for storage, let's say, right? But in a halakhic sense, it is a soaking of the utensil into the milk, right? So that's what it is. Continue. The non-kosher liquid is contained in a kosher vessel. So whatever is non-kosher, contained in a kosher vessel. So we are afraid that the vessel becomes non-kosher, or the reverse. Right, kosher liquid was contained in non-kosher vessel. The vessel or liquid may become unkosher. So we're talking about kosher part, of course. And the last one, a non-kosher liquid mixed with a kosher liquid immediately. Right, so liquids mix immediately. Okay, transmits the not kosher taste to the kosher liquids for sure. So actually, halachically, that's the only valid mixture, right, of the liquid. So because why? Because you cannot tell take them apart. So if you have other mixture, it may be maybe it's harder, but you can separate them. But liquids, there is no way to separate. Okay. So that's all for tonight. So let me know if you have any questions on any topic. Any questions? Anybody? Okay, no questions, no problem. So we can stop here. Beezrat HaShem, and to be continued on Monday. So it was a successful week. One thing I have to say that we're going to switch time, because I think this Saturday we after Shabbos we switch time. So I think that we're going to go do it 1 hour later for some period of time, unless somebody objects. Okay, go ahead. There is a question. Sorry, go ahead. Robert?
Thank you, Rabbi. What do we do if we don't have a ganitza and we have to get rid of a holy book or something?
I apologize. Say it again. I didn't get it. When you don't have...
If we don't have access to a ganitza.
Gniza?
Geniza,
Okay, Geniza. So you can first of all you can store it indefinitely. You can store it indefinitely. It's also like if a Jew is getting buried, so you can put the things after on top of his grave during the burial, and that's what we do. So when we go to the burial of somebody from the shul, so we bring these things. So it's not disrespectful. It's actually like it's honor for a person that he or she is being buried and with a holy writings. Of course, not everybody understand that. Like secular people do not, but people from the shul they go. That's what we do, if needed. No problem. Or as we said, you can do it yourself. If you go somewhere to the woods, right? Nobody steps, or most likely nobody is going to step, right? And you dig a hole and you bury it in respectable manner. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so no problem. So one more time, we try to like change the times. Maybe 1 hour, 1.25, like 8:45, something later, and then as soon as possible, we're going to switch to 7:30. So the goal is to keep the 7:30, but now we switch the time so it conflicts with the mincha. But that's the only reason. Okay. Thank you very much and good night. So if you have a conflict of schedule, so let me know what you think about it. But let me know as soon as possible, of course. Thank you. Good night and good Shabbos.